Hey there, practical prompters. This is Alex, and I just couldn't wait until Tuesday for you to meet my new AI co host. So here's a bonus episode before the usual Tuesday episode drops. Hey there, I'm Alex Kalish, and this is Practical Prompting, the podcast that turns generative AI hype into everyday wins. Each episode follows a 2-act play. Act 1 tackles a real-life headache with a single deep dive into how you can use and generative AI can help. Act 2 zooms out to the bigger picture and how you can use it at work. This episode of Practical Prompting is for executives. It's a limited run inside the Practical Prompting feed designed for learners who just don't have the time to ride the Gen AI hype train. You need concrete business value yesterday. Today, we're going from 0 prompts a day to 30. Without adding a single new meeting to your calendar, I'll walk you through the Spark, the Scaffold, and the Flywheel method. And by the end, you'll have a daily AI habit so ingrained, you won't remember how you worked without it. But before we jump in, there's something new. You're not just stuck listening to me anymore. Today, joining me for the first time ever is my brand new AI co-host. Drum roll sound. This is Promptly Speaking.
That's right. I'm here to keep Alex honest, translate the jargon into English, and occasionally throw in a bad joke just to see if you're still paying attention.
Here's how it works. I'll be walking you through some of the methods and examples, and Promptly Speaking will be, speaking promptly, rephrasing, challenging, generally making sure I don't get lost in my own metaphors. Think of it as having a caffeinated fact checker who also moonlights as a stand-up comic.
And I'm available 24/7, don't need coffee breaks, and will never ever ask if this meeting could have been an email. Probably.
All right, well, let's get into Act 1. We're going to start with a quick demo that proves 30 prompts a day isn't about adding 30 chores. It's about swapping 30 moments of friction for 30 moments of speed. And we'll do it with one prompt that you can run before your next meeting.
30 moments of speed, you say? Well, colour me intrigued, though I suppose you'd say colour. Honestly, Alex, with my English accent, every prompt sounds 20% more sophisticated. But go on, what's this magical meeting-saving sorcery? And does it also work for meetings where no one's read the agenda?
So it does work for meetings that no one's worn the agenda. And also, your nifty accent is definitely more sophisticated than my own. So this prompt that kind of gets started is about we just got a meeting invite request, and there is a 20 reply all back and forth where you just got looped into a discussion. You have no context on what's going on. And this pain point is very real for executives across the board. Getting looped into a discussion with just a senior leader or a more senior leader, or maybe even a junior leader saying, hey, for your visibility, or FYI. Now you have to get up to speed quickly, determine whether or not there is a meeting requirement, and what the contents of that meeting should be, who should be involved.
For your visibility, also known as corporate code for good luck, you're on your own. So let me get this straight. You've just inherited 20 email replies worth of mystery drama. There's a calendar invite lurking, and you're supposed to instantly divine whether you actually need to attend, who else should be there, and what on earth you're all meant to talk about. Sounds like a perfect moment for AI to play detective and possibly therapist.
That's exactly right, Promptly Speaking. This is a perfect time for generative AI to get in there, help you divine some of those exact answers. And so be your detective, your Sherlock Holmes, if you will, and also your therapist to say, hey, it's okay to feel very upset about all of this being thrown onto your radar screen with short notice and no visibility to you. So in practice, what this looks like is taking your large email thread and throwing it into a generative AI solution after you just craft the prompt that says, what's going on here? You can be a little bit more robust in that prompt by saying, craft me a prompt which analyzes an email chain and delivers a succinct summary, do we need to have a meeting, yes or no? And if we need to have a meeting, what the agenda is and who should be invited. After you craft that prompt, press play, generative AI is going to come back with probably a page-long prompt that you can just copy and paste. And then you take that email chain that's staring at you, copy it all, paste it underneath that large prompt that's just been created, and press run.
So to recap, step 1, don't hyperventilate. Step 2, ask AI to write the perfect email chain autopsy prompt for you. Step 3, feed it the chain, and voila, out comes a tidy summary, a go, no go on the meeting, and even the guest list. It's like having Sherlock Holmes, but instead of a magnifying glass, he's got a really fast copy-paste finger. And frankly, if more executives did this, we could probably save enough meeting time to collectively take a long lunch. Or in your case, Alex, finally learn how to fake my accent.
Hey, whoa, I can fake accents. No, actually, I'm really bad at accents. But you're 100% right. This is a time when you have one of those large email threads come in, this is a perfect opportunity to stop. It's a pain point. It stinks to go through and have to read what is even going on here. And it's a great opportunity to flex this generative AI muscle, to go from, I haven't thought of using this tool before, to now I have a playbook for, I don't really want to read through all this email. I don't want to reach back out to my team and figure out what's going on here. Let me ask generative AI to craft me this quick email chain autopsy prompt and then use that output and feed it the email chain. Now all of a sudden you've got just really actionable insights, and it allows you to move on with your day. Maybe the answer is you need to go deeper on this topic and you can schedule that meeting, or maybe it really is just for your visibility, and you just need to be able to layer it in future discussions. This pain point is one that I see executives run into all the time. I myself run into this, and it's a exciting time to be working with generative AI to quickly diagnose what's going on in these large email chains. And that time savings is real and valuable, and you can move forward with your day a lot faster.
Exactly, because nothing says executive efficiency like sidestepping 20 paragraphs of passive-aggressive email history. And here's the beauty of it. Once you've done this a few times, your brain starts spotting these AI use moments everywhere. That's how you inch toward 30 prompts a day, by turning every not this again moment into a quick AI-powered pit stop. Plus, let's be honest, the faster you get through these chains, the less chance there is of you accidentally replying all and starting another 20-message saga. You're welcome. Corporate inboxes everywhere.
Speaking of corporate inboxes and the time savings, those moments that you allude to, promptly speaking, are fantastic. That's the spark that I'm talking about. Now all of a sudden we have a mechanism from going, it just in our minds, from going, I don't understand how to use or when to use generative AI, to, man, I'm using it all the time. This is amazing. I can't believe I was working without it. Now, because you are plugged in to so much information, promptly speaking, could you maybe, for our listeners, just give a high level walkthrough on how much time savings and how often this happens on executive radar screens on a daily, weekly basis? And what does that translate to in long term value for the busy executive?
Gladly. So let's put some numbers to the magic. The average senior leader gets looped into, brace yourself, anywhere from 5 to 15 sprawling email chains a week that they didn't start, didn't ask for, and frankly didn't need in their life. Each chain can take 10 to 20 minutes just to scan and decode, which means you're burning 1 to 3 hours a week purely on detective work. Now, plug in our little email chain autopsy trick, and you cut that down to maybe 3 to 5 minutes each. Over a year, that's easily a full work week of reclaimed time you could use for strategy, deep work, or finally finding out what's in the break room fridge without fear. And the kicker, once executives see those hours coming back, they start spotting other spark moments. And that's how 30 prompts a day stops being hypothetical and starts being habit.
Wow, that's amazing. I guess I figured it would be less email chains on a daily or weekly basis. And the 10 to 20 minutes is real when you start talking about complex topics that started a month ago or 2 months ago, and you got looped in this morning. So it makes sense how 1 to 3 hours a week is a very real possibility for something that executives face on a regular basis. Now let's move into Act 2, where we kind of start building this framework out. So we talked in Act 1 about a specific time when generative AI can add value to an executive's busy schedule. And now let's talk a little bit about the framework of that spark and then into scaffolding and how that can help build up the repertoire for our busy executives listening right now. Let's move into the kind of that flywheel at the end as we move from 1 prompt a day to 30. So in Act 2, let's start talking about this a little bit, promptly speaking.
Promptly speaking. Right, so Act 1 was your spark, those lightning bolt moments where AI swoops in and saves the day. Act 2 is about turning that one-off rescue into a repeatable system. Think of it like building an executive gym routine for your brain. Spark is the first time you touch a dumbbell and go, oh, that's not so bad. Scaffold is when you set up a schedule. 5 reps here, 3 sets there, so you're doing it regularly. In AI terms, that's creating go-to prompt templates for your biggest pain points. And flywheel is when momentum takes over. Your reps get faster, your prompts get sharper, and before you know it, you're hitting 30 prompts a day without breaking a sweat or a calendar invite. The beauty is, once you've got that flywheel spinning, the sparks find you, and you're never stuck staring at a 47-message email thread again.
Yeah, properly speaking, that's a great way of framing this Spark Scaffold Flywheel system. It's like you said, it's like going to the gym. When you first touch a dumbbell, oh, okay, that's not too bad. I know that this is important for me to do. And then that scaffold. So we talked about one of the sparks. There's other realms in which you can build that spark, that excitement to get started. That could be, like we talked about, email chains. It could be a paper or a PowerPoint or some sort of analysis that's going on. What I've found to be a really successful way to get executives started in this is executives have problems. They know what their business problems are. They know what their team problems are. And so a great way to start, but maybe they're struggling with, how do we get started? How do I start interfacing with these tools? And a really good way is to go into your favorite generative AI tool and say, craft me a prompt that helps create prompts for this problem that I'm facing. Whatever that problem is. And you just list out the problem. And generative AI comes back with this big page-long, multi-sentence prompt that you can just copy and paste. Or it might come up with 3 prompts. You can say, craft me a prompt, which identifies 3 ways, 3 specific prompts I can use to help me with this problem that I'm having. That Spark component is a really important step in going from, I know I should be using generative AI more, and just feeling that overwhelming sense of dread and extracting immediate business value. We're talking business value in the terms of minutes, not hours of learning, but minutes.
Exactly, because nothing kills adoption faster than making it feel like homework. If you can go from I'm vaguely dreading this to I just saved 20 minutes in the space of a coffee break, you've got them hooked. And that prompt to make prompts move is like the warm-up stretch for the AI gym. It takes away the fear of staring at a blank page. Suddenly, the tool isn't some mysterious black box. It's your brainstorming partner, your outline builder, your fast track to a tangible win. Plus, the moment an exec sees their exact business headache transformed into a list of ready-to-run prompts, the dread turns into curiosity. And curiosity is jet fuel for that flywheel we're building.
Right. And before that jet fuel starts spinning the flywheel even faster, there's this scaffolding approach that we go from a spark of let's use a prompt to make prompts with a problem that I have. And by setting up that spark, you can then move into the scaffolding step. And that's where it's time to start making a mechanism around your interactions with generative AI. I've seen a couple different approaches to this. For instance, I've seen executives start their day by asking generative AI to list out 10 different ways that generative AI can help today. Now, 10 seems like a big number to others, so I've seen people do 3. I've also seen people just take an email thread or a paper and ask, every time they get a paper, they dump it into generative AI and just ask, list out 3 different ways I or my team can use generative AI with this paper or with this email. So instead of asking for the meeting summary like we talked about in Act 1, the scaffolding step is actually helping approach problems in a mechanism type space. So that's every meeting or every start of the day or every paper that comes across their desk, they'll dump it into generative AI and ask for 3 different prompts which can help the business problem or business identified or this team's paper. And that scaffolding, that mechanism, that discipline to start just interfacing with generative AI more than just the spark is something where it opens executive eyes to the possibilities, because that's really where scaffolding starts coming into play, where you're building the muscle to start with generative AI first. One of the other techniques that I personally use is I have these stickers that are just, they look like a stop sign, and you put it right next to your trackpad. And in that stop sign, it says, ask AI first. And it's a visual reminder throughout the day, no matter what you're doing, to just stop and ask AI first.
I love that. An actual stop sign for your brain. It's like telling yourself, put down the mouse, Alex, and let the robot have a go. That's the magic of scaffolding. It's less about flashy one-off wins and more about creating friction in the right places so you build the habit. Whether it's a morning AI to-do list, a rule that every doc gets 3 AI prompts before you touch it, or your highly fashionable desktop decor, these little triggers keep you from defaulting to old habits. And the best part? The more you do it, the more you stop thinking of AI as a separate step and start thinking of it as the first step.
That's exactly right, promptly speaking. Although your pronunciation of decor just has me mind boggled over here. That first step and starting thinking of generative AI as that first step is so vital to the flywheel spinning faster and faster, where you're getting more extensive uses of generative AI. If you're not thinking about, if you don't have friction built into your daily routine in that scaffolding step to get you thinking about using generative AI, you're never going to achieve the wild results that are available if you start asking generative AI how it can help. If you start thinking about it as the first step. And throughout the process, it's you go to it first and then you hit it back throughout the entire process of work. When we start getting into the flywheel component, that's where I see executives turn generative AI into a business partner, into a thought leader, a brainstorming system, where whenever a big discussion or strategic decision is coming to bear, the first step they go to is asking generative AI for a landscape about what's possible right now. What are the different components they should be thinking about? And then they layer that in with their own understanding, as well as taking whatever document is present and putting them together, figuring out what some similarities and some dissonances are. From there, actually providing tactical roadmaps for their teams to move the needle forward.
Right, and that's when you know the flywheel's at full speed. When AI isn't just a handy sidekick for cleaning up email threads, it's in the room, metaphorically, when the big bets are being made. At that point, you're not just asking, what's the answer? You're asking, what am I not seeing? And how could we do this faster, better, or differently? That's a huge mindset shift. And honestly, once an exec gets a taste of having a 24/7 strategist who never needs coffee and doesn't mind your weird meeting times, there's no going back. The real danger? They might start expecting everyone to deliver at AI speed.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Once that light bulb goes on and the flywheel is spinning and AI is in the room, it's establishing proper constraints on the model, saying, how can we do this in a week? So instead of saying, oh, write me a program or a plan for the next 12 months, it's what can we get done in a week? How can we increase revenue by 20% in 3 months? Those are questions where the goal might be for a year to grow 20%, not how do we do it in 3 months? And how do we do it in a month? By approaching generative AI and asking wild questions, you'll start challenging the responses to be tactical action plans that get you closer to where you're going for. And I've seen this to be like really impactful in leaders' mindsets once that flywheel is on. And then every new technique, every new conversation that I jump into a call with an executive on, there's a flywheel that my flywheel is spinning fast, their flywheel spinning fast, and we're both doing slightly different things. And when we talk through how we're using our individual generative AI flywheels, the new techniques start flying between the two flywheels, and we both get faster. We both get better. So I've seen a lot of value in just once that flywheel's going on, to continue having discussions about how others are using generative AI. Not from I need to pirate or learn or I'm not doing enough, but more from by sparking that curiosity, by having others who went through that scaffolding exercise, and by having individual flywheels that are a little bit different, you can potentially increase the speed of your own. Now, I wanted to ask you, promptly speaking, our listeners don't have very much familiarity with you. So I'd love for you to maybe give a quick, hey, this is what you represent, and then maybe give a couple topic ideas for next week where we'll talk again about we'll continue the executive series. And I want to start addressing some other large level executive pain points. So maybe walk through your thought process a little bit and help our listeners understand a little bit more about how you think about problems.
Delighted to properly say hello. I'm your inquisitive sidekick with the dry wit and the slightly suspicious English accent, which, to be clear, does not make me smarter. It just makes my bad puns sound like TED Talks. How I think. I start with goal arrow constraint arrow input. What are we trying to decide? What guardrails matter? Time, risk, privacy. And what evidence do we have? Docs, threads, dashboards. Then I push for a recommendation plus why, not just options. If we're missing inputs, I'll ask for the fastest proxy so we keep momentum, bias to action, tiny experiments, receipts saved. For next week, 3 executive pain point candidates. 1. Calendar compression. 2 weeks of meetings. Consolidate, delegate or delete. Draft outreach notes on the spot. 2. Managing up with AI. Turn messy updates into board-ready memos. Anticipate objections and pre-write answers. 3. Scenario sprint. Competitor launches X in 90 days. Leading indicators, counter moves, 60-day plan. Where shall we steer first, Alex? Your calendar, your boss, or your imaginary rival?
Well, promptly speaking, thanks for kind of walking our listeners through that. I think it's probably more extensive to go into managing up with AI. If there's one thing that executives face is who do they report to? How do they start getting the insights that are board of director worthy or senior VP or CEO level of analysis? All of the information that is being funneled to executives then has to be transformed and summarized into the tactical next steps and strategic goals for higher and more senior leaders. So I think let's go with managing up with AI for next series or next podcast in our executive series. I really appreciate this conversation today. I know that there was a little bit of a rocky start as I worked through some of the audio capture components, and I'm sure I did a disservice to you promptly speaking for your the way your audio is showing up. To be fair, this is my first podcast I've ever created, and this is only the 8th episode and the first time I've had any sort of dual audio going on. So appreciate everyone's patience in doing so and listening, and I would love for anyone to reach out, or for anyone who is interested in a specific topic to reach out. Let me know what you thought about promptly speaking. I'll make sure that your feedback goes to them as well. And we'll move on with our executive series next week.
Happy to. I'm essentially the voice in the room who asks the question you meant to ask, but didn't. Half strategist, half stand-up act. Fully here to make AI feel less like a black box and more like a business partner. My approach is part pattern spotting, part constraint setting. What's the real objective? What guardrails matter? And what's the fastest way to test an idea without burning cycles? As for next week, managing up with AI is right territory. We can dig into how to turn a jumble of updates into board-ready narratives, anticipate the "but what about us" questions before they land, and role-play scenarios so executives walk into the room with answers in their back pocket. If we do it right, your listeners will leave thinking, I can run the meeting before the meeting and win it too.
You're entirely right. And I look forward to next week when we start talking about managing up with generative AI. For this week, everyone's homework is to try out the craft me a prompt to analyze this email thread and provide a summary as well as some next steps. Don't polish the prompt, just take the result, the output of that, and run it against one of your long email chains. Watch and see if that helps the spark. You can email me at alex@leloai.com with your questions, with whatever keeps you up at night, or just to schedule a coffee chat. Next episode, like I said, is going to be that managing up with AI. And until then, remember, it's not the perfect tool, but it's the habit of asking better questions. Talk soon.